Breaking news from around your world on this Monday, July 8th, 2019. I'm Larry Rice. More than 540 civilians have been killed and more than 2,000 people injured since a Russian-led assault on the last rebel bastion in northwestern Syria began 2 months ago. The Syrian Network for Human Rights, which monitors casualties and briefs various UN agencies, said 544 civilians have been killed in the hundreds of attacks carried out by Russian jets and the Syrian army. That death toll includes 130 children. Another 2,117 people were injured. Russia and its Syrian army ally deny their jets hit indiscriminately civilian areas with cluster munitions and incendiary weapons, which residents in opposition areas say are meant to paralyze everyday life. Moscow says its forces and the Syrian army are fending off terror attacks by al-Qaeda militants, whom they say hit populated government-held areas, and it accuses rebels of wrecking a ceasefire deal agreed last year between Turkey and Russia. Residents and rescuers say the 2-month-old campaign has left dozens of villages and towns in ruins. According to the United Nations, at least 300,000 people have been forced to leave their homes for the safety of areas closer to the border with Turkey. Iran said it has followed through on its vow to raise its uranium enrichment level above the cap set in the 2015 nuclear deal between Tehran and world powers. An official from Iran's Atomic Energy Organization said Tehran was making the move because it said European signatories had not delivered on the sanctions relief Iran was supposed to get in exchange for curbing its nuclear program. President Donald Trump, who withdrew the U.S. from the nuclear deal last year and reimposed sanctions, warned Sunday that Iran better be careful. Under the nuclear accord, Iran is barred from enriching uranium beyond the 3.67% level, which is suitable for nuclear energy fuel, but far below what is needed for making nuclear weapons. Iranian officials threatened further violations, saying Tehran would keep reducing its commitments every 60 days unless European parties to the agreement protected it from sanctions imposed by Trump. In a sign of heightening tensions, France, Germany, and Britain, all parties to the deal, expressed concerns over the steps taken by Tehran, its latest effort to force the West to lift sanctions ravaging its limping economy. The British government said Monday it will fine British Airways a record $230 million for a security breach that affected the personal data of about 500,000 customers a year ago. Officials said last summer, hackers diverted British Airways website traffic to a fraudulent site where login, payment card, travel details, names, and addresses could be mined. It comes about a year after European Union member states began implementing the most sweeping change in data protection rules in a generation. Britain's Information Commissioner Elizabeth Denham said, "People's personal data is just that, personal. When an organization fails to protect it from loss, damage, or theft, it is more than an inconvenience. That's why the law is clear. When you are entrusted with personal data, you must look after it." The regulator said the proposed fine, equal to 1.5% of the airline's annual revenue, is the biggest it's ever imposed. The so-called Terminator of the Democratic Republic of the Congo was found guilty of war crimes by the International Criminal Court in the Netherlands Monday. ICC judges said rebel commander Bosco Ntaganda led soldiers who raped civilians, turned them into sexual slaves, and forced children to become soldiers in 2002 and 2003. The crimes occurred in the mineral-rich Ituri region of the DRC. Ntaganda, who's deputy chief of staff and commander of operations for the Patriotic Forces for the Liberation of Congo, faces a maximum sentence of life in prison. He maintained his innocence throughout the trial, saying he grew up in Rwanda and was persecuted and became a child soldier. The leader of the Patriots group, Thomas Lubanga, was convicted by the ICC in 2012 of using child soldiers. He's serving a 14-year prison term. Convicted billionaire sex offender Jeffrey Epstein has been indicted on new charges related to alleged sex crimes involving minors. Epstein, who lives in South Florida, was arrested over the weekend at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey after he had flown from Paris to the New York City area. The arrest was part of a joint New York City Police Department and FBI investigation. According to senior law enforcement sources, Epstein will be charged with trafficking and conspiracy to traffic minors for sex at his homes on the Upper East Side of New York and in Palm Beach, Florida. Dozens of underage victims, some as young as 14, were allegedly involved. Epstein had been accused of sexually abusing more than 30 minor girls between 1999 and 2007, but he secured a non-prosecution deal with federal prosecutors in Miami. In that deal, described as a deal of a lifetime, he pleaded in 2008 to 2 state prostitution charges and served only 13 months and avoided a federal trial. He also registered as a sex offender and paid restitution to the victims identified by the FBI. Epstein, who is 66, was expected to appear in federal court in New York on Monday. Epstein's attorney, Jack Goldberger, told NBC News he declines to comment at this time. Deutsche Bank announced Sunday that it planned to cut 18,000 jobs by 2022. That's about a fifth of its workforce. The German bank said the reorganization would include reduced operations in New York and London, with investment banking taking a hard hit. The company struggling to come back from a series of scandals and management mistakes that have derailed its effort to rival U.S. megabanks such as J.P. Morgan Chase and Goldman Sachs. Chief Executive Christian Sewing telegraphed the move at a May shareholder meeting when he said, "I can assure you we're prepared to make tough cutbacks." In a statement Sunday, Sewing said, "We are returning to our roots and to what once made us one of the leading banks in the world." Greek opposition leader Kyriakos Mitsotakis will be sworn in as prime minister Monday after his conservative New Democracy Party won Sunday's snap election, soundly beating Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras' leftist Syriza party. With more than 90% of the votes counted, New Democracy had nearly 40% of the vote to Syriza's 31.5%, putting Mitsotakis on track for a parliamentary majority. Mitsotakis pledged to lower taxes and increase investment. Tsipras won office in 2015 at the height of Greece's financial meltdown, and although his government steered Greece back to financial stability, he agreed to a third European Union bailout with unpopular austerity measures. Far-right Golden Dawn, the third largest party during Greece's financial crisis, failed to win any seats on Sunday. Disney Channel star Cameron Boyce died over the weekend, according to his family. He was 20 years old. Boyce's family said the young actor, who appeared in Adam Sandler films, passed away in his sleep due to a seizure, which was the result of an ongoing medical condition for which he was being treated. The world is now undoubtedly without one of its brightest lights, but his spirit will live on through the kindness and compassion of all who knew and loved him, according to his family. Boyce started acting before age 10. His first recurring role came 11 years ago on General Hospital Night Shift. He later became a presence on the Disney Channel, where he played Carlos in the Descendants franchise and Luke Ross on Jessie, a sitcom. He also appeared in the Grown Ups films as the son of Sandler's character. Mississippi authorities have barred swimming at all 21 of the state's beaches due to a blue-green harmful algae bloom, according to the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality. The state says visitors can still use the sand portion of the beaches, but should avoid going into the water until further notice. Harmful algae blooms occur when algae colonies grow out of control and produce toxic or harmful effects on people or wildlife, according to NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Toxic algae can cause symptoms from rashes to stomach cramps to vomiting. NOAA says the blooms are occurring more frequently because of climate change and nutrient pollution. The U.S. women's soccer team beat the Netherlands 2-0 Sunday in Lyon, France, to win their second straight Women's World Cup title and their record fourth overall. Megan Rapinoe and Rose Lavelle scored both U.S. goals in the second half. Rapinoe put the U.S. on the board with a penalty kick 61 minutes into the game, and Lavelle scored an insurance goal with a run-up in the center 8 minutes later. Rapinoe said, "It's surreal. I don't know how to feel. It's ridiculous. Rapinoe, the U.S. co-captain, sat out the semifinal victory against England after scoring 2 goals in each of the team's preceding 2 games. She was named the outstanding player of the tournament. And that's your update for this Monday, July 8th, 2019. I'm Larry Rice. Thanks so much for listening and for supporting this podcast, and I hope you have a wonderful week.